Hey guys, so today I want to talk about 5 anxiety symptoms that stuck around the longest for me. These were my more chronic in nature symptoms. And don't get me wrong, I had tons and tons of different types of symptoms that would pop up and go away. Some of them that didn't make my top 5 but would still hang around for weeks or months at a time. But these were the ones that hung out with me pretty much nonstop. Maybe I got relief if I went to sleep, but once I got up and became consciously aware of what's going on and my struggle with anxiety, these symptoms would just turn on and would stay in autopilot throughout the day. Very frustrating. It was one of the things that really messed with my level of acceptance. I had horrible health anxiety, so I didn't know that anxiety can cause certain symptoms to stay with you even if you weren't consciously anxious. So I struggled with that in and out of the doctors, hospitals, visits, testing, all that good stuff. But you guys know my story if you've been watching me for a while. And also, if your symptoms didn't meet the top 5, understand that our bodies are all different. We manifest anxiety in different ways. For some people, it can be tension. For some people, it can be maybe headaches or IBS. Everybody is different. And there are some things, again, that I dealt with for long stretches of time that didn't make my top 5, but I'm going to mention those at the end of this video, so you want to watch that. $20 off of my course, Elite Anxiety Bootcamp, guys. Use code Anxiety Recovery, and you can actually save some money on an already affordable course that can help you with your recovery process, that can help you get past some of these symptoms that I dealt with that we're going to be talking about today. So the first one that seemed to stick around all the time until I finally conquered my heart anxiety, what do you think it is? Chest pains. Chest pains. From the very first day that I had my bad 6-hour-long panic attack, my chest started to hurt, and it was relentless, and it did not let up. It continued to hurt. The intensity level would change. I would have different types of chest pain, and I'm going to try to describe it the best way that I can because there's many different types. I could have it up here. I could have it down here. I could have it on the left. I could have it on the right and the dreaded center portion where our heart is. I could have shooting pains where it would start in one area and kind of shoot down or shoot up depending on where it starts and where it ends. I could have this crushing, squeezing pain. So when you look up these things, you're going to see a lot of horrible results on your Google page, right? If you Google these symptoms, and it's going to give you a load of heart problems, heart attacks. So I really attached to this. And whenever I started putting my fear and focus into my chest and my heart, that's where my body really held on to tension. So I would have different types of pain radiating. It could move around. It could radiate to my back, to my arms. And then I would have secondary symptoms that would combine with that, like numbness and tingling and dizziness and shortness of breath and confusion. All these things combined, and I felt like I was a walking heart attack, and I would have this all the time. It would trigger me. It would cause me to panic. Then all those symptoms would escalate. But even whenever I wasn't consciously anxious, I could be doing something that I loved. There was always this dull ache that hung around like, hey, there might be something wrong with your heart. You know, something that was just always there in the background, no matter what. And until I got past my heart anxiety, that was something that I dealt with roughly 1.5 to 2 years on a constant basis. Number 2, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, symptoms. And I would deal with this in many different ways. This is a very broad symptom, right? There's many different symptoms of IBS that you can have. But I mention it at number 2 because it was something that was always going on in the background. So it could be trapped air, trapped gas, heartburn, GERD was terrible for me, stomach cramping and stomach pains that would move around. It could be sharp or it could be dull. Some of you are dealing with chronic constipation because of your anxiety. Some of you are dealing with daily diarrhea. That's what I tended to deal with. Nothing worse than having a panic attack, thinking you're having a heart attack, but you're also on the toilet with diarrhea. It's pretty bad if you're in a bad spot if you're going through that. But I can relate that I was there pretty much on a daily basis. The trapped gas, guys, and I know it's like TMI, and some of it's just because your body produces a lot more gas whenever you're dealing with anxiety, but we also tend to be more of rapid breathers, right? A lot more air is coming in. We're sucking in air, especially if you hyperventilate. And if you're having anxiety attacks or panic attacks and that air gets trapped and it has to go somewhere. So some of you are belching a lot. Some of you are passing gas a lot out the other end. For me, I'd wake up and I'd have this horrible gas pain for about 2 to 3 hours until it could get out, right? So IBS was was a real struggle for me. And again, it can manifest in so many different ways. Nausea is something a lot of you deal with. I had that off and on. Thankfully, that wasn't a 24/7 thing for me, because I hate feeling nauseous. I don't know how things would have gone with me if that was my main symptom. So for those of you that deal with constant nausea on a daily basis, my heart goes out to you. But there is hope. You can get past this. But again, trapped air, trapped gas, heartburn, GERD, cramping, sharp pains, shooting pains, a fullness feeling, bloating, of course, that's kind of like goes with the trapped gas theme, constipation, diarrhea, and then all the consequences of constipation and diarrhea. So it can lead to a lot of secondary things that I had to deal with as well. The third one, this one's broad again, but it covers a lot of you guys that I'm not specifically speaking on particular symptoms, and that's muscle tension. Muscle tension, I've said it on this channel since I started making videos pretty much, that I believe somewhere around 90% of most anxiety symptoms are caused by, that was weird, 90% of anxiety symptoms are caused by muscle tension. Even things you wouldn't think of, like tension headaches appear. Even things like digestive issues and GERD and heartburn, it can actually force acid up. That's gonna be a problem whenever it comes to your shortness of breath, right? Your diaphragm, your breathing cavity is restricted with tension. It can cause things like the chest pain. I wanted to have an individual discussion about the chest pain because a lot of you deal with that with your heart anxiety. But yes, it leads to the chest pain. Some of you deal with globus hystericus. So that's another one you wouldn't think tension causes, but it causes tension in your throat. It makes you feel like you got a freaking golf ball or an apple in there, right? It can give you the arm pain, the leg pains, when it can lead to secondary things like wobbly jelly legs, tremors, shakiness from the tension. So it can lead to so many secondary symptoms. So I had to mention it. That's something that I had through my full 5-year journey into the very end when things got better. Okay, so tension causes a lot of other symptoms, a lot of secondary symptoms. It's not just what you think, like, oh, I just got some tension in my shoulder or my arms. It can cause a lot of different things you'd never think tension could cause. Number 4, fast heart rate, okay? Now, it got better towards the end whenever I was in my recovery mode. But again, when I had that first massive panic attack, it's like my heart started pumping fast and it did not want to slow down. Now, realize I wasn't constantly panicking. I could have days where I'd have multiple anxiety attacks and panic attacks, but in between, you'd think my heart would want to settle down and calm down, but it would only calm down to maybe 90, 95 beats per minute up to like 120. And that was what it was from a few minutes after I would get up. Now, whenever I'd go to sleep, I'm sure it would calm down once I got past the insomnia stage of my anxiety, my nocturnal panic attacks and whatnot. Excuse me. But once I got up and I started to realize, consciously that, oh my God, here's another day of anxiety. I'm looking for symptoms. Where are they? Oh, there they are. And then I start thinking about my day and thinking about my life and thinking about the possibility that I'm dying. And guess what? My heart rate would start to get faster. I had white coat syndrome. So when I would get my vitals checked at the hospital, I'd go in, it'd already be at like 100. I'm like, damn, and I'm looking at it, it'd get faster, 105, 110, 115, 120. Just getting my pulse checked would trigger me into panic because I was afraid of the results that I would get and what the doctor would say afterwards. Same thing that goes towards blood pressure. A lot of you deal with white coat syndrome. But my heart rate, it always felt like it was racing. The most relief I felt like that I would have is whenever I was asleep. And if I was able to just relax and sit down, maybe it could creep down to like 90, 95. But anytime that I checked it, that was the lowest it would be. And then from there, it would start to get faster the more concerned I would get with it. And that was something that was always in the background. Also with my heart rate, it didn't take much for me to palpitate or for things to really escalate. If it was already chilling like at 100, but I had to get off the couch quick, it would just jump up to 120, 130. I checked my heart rate all the time. That didn't help. So the focus, the fear, that'll keep some of these symptoms around. I was always doing this. I was very good at calculating my heart rate. And number 5, guys, is high blood pressure. This is another vital that never seemed to chill the hell out. It would kick into high gear shortly after being awake. I'm sure, like some of the other symptoms, I found relief whenever I would fall asleep at night. And sometimes briefly, maybe a reading would be somewhat normal. But most of the time, my blood pressure at rest was going to be anywhere from 130 to like 140-ish over 90. And of course, if I had panic attacks, we're skyrocketing here, like 160, 170, over 100. This also was a component of my white coat syndrome, like the heart rate. I was nervous to get bad blood pressure readings because I was scared of what the doctor was going to say, especially if it was a new doctor. They're like, oh, do you have a history of heart disease, or is there anything wrong with your heart? I'm like, no, I think I just have anxiety. You're scared the hell out of me. So that was also something that was very frustrating. Now, luckily, I didn't own a blood pressure machine back then, because the couple days that I got my hands on one from my mom, because she was a nurse, I checked it 30 times per day for like a few days. Nonstop checking, feeling like I was a slave to it, because I was a slave to it. But I didn't own one. And for whatever reason, I never bought one. But again, thank God, because it was bad enough that I was traveling to Walgreens or Walmart to check my blood pressure. If not every day, every other day. So that was an issue. But again, you combine the chest pain with all the other symptoms and the fast heart rate, and now you throw in the high blood pressure. I felt like I was a walking heart attack. So this really messed with my acceptance. I went through all the testing, got checked out, tons of times. And I just felt like they were misdiagnosing me, not taking me seriously. And eventually I was able to get out of that storm and at least get past the heart anxiety portion of my health anxiety. But some honorable mentions: globus hystericus, the tightness, globus sensation in your throat, the lump in throat type feeling like something's lodged in there. I dealt with that for an extensive amount of time. Shakiness and tremors, that was something that happened quite often. And twitching might have been worthy, actually. If I was doing like a top 6, twitching would be right up there at number 6. So so those are some of the honorable mentions. And again, if I didn't mention a symptom that you're going through, don't freak out because of it. It doesn't mean that you can't have that chronically or constantly. Some of you are having dizziness nonstop. Some of you are having headaches nonstop. To each his own. It's the way our body manifests our anxiety. And it's also how much fear and focus you have for a particular symptom. The more you fear and focus a certain message or symptom, the more persistent it's going to be. But if you made it this far, be sure to go down below in the comment section and comment your top 5 constant anxiety symptoms. Your top 5 constant anxiety symptoms. Again, guys, use code Anxiety Recovery to save $20 on an already very affordable course, my Elite Anxiety Bootcamp, that shows you how I personally beat anxiety disorder, which is generalized anxiety disorder, health anxiety, and panic disorder. Yeah, I had a trifecta of things going on. All the symptoms you can think of, I was able to get out of that. And I want you guys to be able to do that as well. This kind of simplifies a very complicated recovery process. It puts everything in a step-by-step format for you, so you don't have to worry about all of that. But check that out. It's changing people's lives. There's a link down below in the description and in the first pinned comment. If you're interested in doing one-on-one coaching calls with me, my email for that is down below. Just send me an email and then I will send you my information. There's a link for online therapy. All my social media is down there, guys. I love you all. Until next time, keep fighting.